if you would, we're going to be in the book of Revelation once again, and we're going to be starting out in chapter 8 today. At least I believe it's chapter 8 that we're going to first. Chapter 9, excuse me. I'm behind here. And grab my glasses. All right, Revelation chapter 9. Before we get started digging into our biblical study here, let's talk for just a minute about stars. Has anybody heard of, and especially has anybody done the thing where you can get a star named after someone? Does anybody have a star named after them? No, you haven't? You haven't? Has anybody gotten a star named for somebody else? Have you heard of this?
Yes.
Yes. So what is the whole plan with naming stars? Why would you do that? What have you guys thought about?
You have somebody that's impossible to buy a gift for.
What do you mean? Explain this to me.
It's just a real over-the-top gift. Yes.
Naming stars, yeah. It's just this huge gift. I mean, how do you ever top that? Has anybody checked into it? What does it cost to get a star named after somebody?
Not that much, really.
They got lots of them out there, you know, and they keep discovering more. So, you know, there's a huge supply. If there's supply and demand that drives pricing, you know, they got a lot of supply. Has anybody thought about doing it for somebody? You have?
When my kids were little, I found a free website that said that they do it for free, and so I did it. I got the coordinates, but I don't know if it really works since there was no fee.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I really claim it.
So theoretically, your kids have stars named after them?
Could, yeah.
They could. Okay. All right.
I was wondering how you would verify which star is which, and also like if they're getting people to pay and there's multiple stars, like stars named for multiple people, sort of a thing, or
Yeah. 'Cause this is what I wonder about. You know.
You want. You could even take a big one.
Yeah. So you pick that star and you pay to have it named after your loved one. And to me, I've thought about this like with, you know, for my grandpa who's gone. You know, the Willard Mills star. You know, well, what's to say that they didn't sell me the same star to name that they sold you and you and you and you? How would you ever verify
How
that?
many names that star has?
Yeah, it's
Is that the same prince that said you won that lottery?
well, yeah, that's or the guy that's got a bunch of gold and he just needs to ship it to somebody. And yeah, so naming stars, I don't know, I feel weird about it and stuff, but at the same time it is kind of a cool idea. You know, you get a little certificate. Now don't do this or anything, but you could always just go create your own certificate and print off a certificate. Pam, the star was named for you. You know, when you look up, third star to the right and straight on till morning, that's the Pam star there, whatever. How would you know? Do any of you know the names of some of the stars, though? Or constellations, any of that stuff? Do you guys know? What do you know, Rose? Cassiopeia, or Cassiopeia, is a constellation. Okay, can you identify it?
yeah, it's like a W or an M depending on where it's oriented
So,
for the time of year and when you look at it. Yeah.
okay. So Rose knows Cassiopeia or Cassiopeia. What do you know?
Orion's belt,
You know Orion's belt, yeah. And how do you know that?
30 stars, and they're like this,
Uh-huh.
straight line.
Uh-huh.
You can usually always see the features one up.
Yep. And do you know the rest of the stars in that whole constellation?
Isn't one of them regal or regal?
I have no idea of it.
Yeah.
I-
I only know that because my friend named her two sons Orion and Regal.
Oh, wow.
That's why I know that.
So, yeah, I don't know the names of the stars, but I know that constellation. And out at our house, anyway, on a clear night, we can see all of Orion. His belt is the easiest to identify, but we can see his bow and everything. And, you know, that's just kind of cool to watch it move through the sky. Or how many of you know the Big Dipper? Yep, okay. North Star. The Little Dipper, yeah. Yeah. What's the name of the North Star, by the way? Polaris. So, That's the North Star. My grandpa taught me that when I was just a little bitty guy. You know, taught me to look at the Big Dipper and line up Polaris with that. So on the wagon trains, what I've always been told is that at night, when you were on a wagon train, you would line up the tongue of the lead wagon on the North Star. So that way the next morning you knew that way's north, and then you navigated from that through the day. So just, you know, we watch the stars, we use the stars. There are different constellations that appear at different times, right? So some are more summer constellations, some are more winter, or based on position. Can anybody tell time by the stars? This is something I feel like I ought to know how to do. This seems like a manly skill, you know, but you can tell time by, especially the Big Dipper. If you learn, you know, to recognize where the Big Dipper is at sunset, then you can tell time all night long off of the Big Dipper. I don't do it. I just know that it's possible.
Depending on where you're at.
Exactly. But it's different positions depending on the time of year and where you're located. And
You're in Germany. In Germany in June, it's daylight from
Wow.
2 in the morning till 10 at night.
mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's timing. What'd you say, Thelma?
And you see the Big Dipper during only at night, right?
Right. At least I can. So, yeah. So, anyway, stars. Some stars in particular, though. So I looked this up the other day. I've always heard that the closest stars to us, closest star is Alpha Centauri. You guys heard that? Or Centauri, technically. But I learned in my research this week, preparing for this, Centauri. Closest star to Earth, something like 4.2 light years away. And I could be off by a factor of 1 million there and all of that. But I learned this week that Alpha Centauri, the closest star to us, is not a star, it's actually 3 stars. And the closest of that 3-star block called Alpha Centauri is Proxima Centauri, and like 4.2 light years away. I say all this just talking about stars in general, because a star is going to play into our study today in the book of Revelation here. But where else in Scripture do we see stars playing a prominent role?
The birth.
At the birth of Jesus. So, and we have a star that does something absolutely extraordinary. What does that star do?
Leads wise men.
It traveled ahead of them. How do we get this? So I guess the next question I ought to ask is, have you ever seen something that you thought was a star that was moving? Okay, shaking your head, yes. What have you seen?
A helicopter.
A helicopter, yeah. At night, you got a helicopter with bright lights on, and then you realize that they're turning the searchlight on you because they're looking for you. No. You know. They're after you. They figured out where you are. Yeah, it could be a helicopter. What else could a moving star be?
You can see some satellites.
Yeah.
Satellites? Yeah, absolutely. What else have you seen that was moving that looked like a star?
Drones.
What's that?
Drone.
Drones? Yeah, a while back, did you see some drones that were flashing in unison? Yeah, and literally out in my front yard, I'm like, what in the world is going on? Oh, that's got to be a drone array, because there was like 12 of them, and they were all in different positions and stuff.
Spying on us again.
Say, they're spying on us again? Yeah. Like they care what we're doing, Thelma. Yeah.
You might be surprised.
Yeah, I know. Anybody else seen something, moving star, what looked like a moving star?
For airplanes,
Airplanes?
we can see Fort Riley when they use their flares.
Really?
But because we're so far away, they look really tiny, and then you just
See, there's another great, so,
Weird things in the sky.
yeah, exactly. Let's go to Revelation 9 now. Okay, we're going to start off here in Revelation 9, verses 1 through 6. So somebody pick that up and read that for me nice and loud. Revelation 9, 1 through 6.
The fifth angel sounded his trumpet, and I saw a star that had fallen from the sky to the earth. The star was given the key to the shaft of the abyss. When he opened the abyss, smoke rose from it, like the smoke from a gigantic furnace. The sun and sky were darkened by the smoke from the abyss, and out of the smoke locusts came down upon the earth and were given powder like that of scorpions. Oh, power, not powder, power of the earth. They were told not to harm the grass of the earth or any plant or tree, but only those people who did not have the seal of God on their foreheads. They were not given power to kill them, but only to torture them for 5 months. And the agony they suffered was like that of the sting of a scorpion when it strikes a man. During those days, men will seek death, but will not find it. They will long to die, but death will elude them.
Okay, so as we start digging in here into chapter 9 today, I want to remind us of our context again. So if we go clear back to Revelation 4, we have a continual idea coming at us. So Revelation 2 and 3, we had the letters to the 7 churches. Those were kind of distinct, letter to the church at Ephesus, the letter to the church at Pergamum, and so on. But then once we finish with those letters, then John starts to describe this vision, I don't know what else to describe it, that he sees. And this is an ongoing description from clear back there. Okay, so when we started with John's description of that vision, what does he start out talking about? I keep bringing us back to this same spot. What does John see? Do you remember? What's that?
Trumpets.
Okay, so we've got trumpets, and now we're on the 5th trumpet. And I'm trying to put this all in a context, though. So remember, there was John's vision of a throne room, right? Okay, and what about that throne? Who was on the throne? What was around him? Let's get our context again.
Well, he had a seal.
What's that?
He had something in his hand with a seal.
We had a scroll in somebody's hands with 7 seals on it. Okay? Who was on the throne? The one, God. The Almighty was seated on the throne. So this is a vision of the throne room of God. Again, take us back to Stephen. When Stephen was being stoned and he saw a vision of a heavenly throne room, and there was one seated on the throne, but then one beside him who was standing. And I love that imagery that Stephen gives us, because I see Christ arising from his throne to receive his own, to receive Stephen in that circumstance. So we've got the one seated on the throne, and he's described in this awesome, powerful spot. The scroll in his hand that's sealed with 7 seals. What else is around the throne there? Sea of glass and a rainbow. 4 living creatures that get this incredible description that I don't get. Yeah. What else do you remember?
24 thrones.
24 thrones with what kind of people on the thrones?
24 elders.
Old guys. Old guys sitting on the throne. They were somewhere between my level of scruffy and Roy's level of white. There we go. What were we starting to say, Chafin?
Well, he heard a lion and he saw a lamb.
So this incredible description of a lamb looking as if it had been slain. But, oh man, awesome. So this is our context. And then we start getting specific things that happen. Like when each of those 7 seals on the scroll was opened, there were certain things that were happening. Now we're at a point where there have been 7 angels. Okay? And these are the 7 angels who stand in the presence of God, and each one of them has a trumpet. And as each of them blows their trumpet, certain things happen. It's like cues at camp all summer for all of us who have been at camp. We run on the bell. So you hear the bell, and every time the bell rings, what happens, Jordan? Yeah, the kids, where would we go next? And so all these kids come running for lunch, or the bell rings and everybody goes running to the water slide, or whatever happens. The trumpets are to announce the next things that are happening, okay? And at the point we're at right now, we are at the 5th angel, and the 5th angel has sounded his trumpet. And there are just 3 specific things I want to take a look at as we look at this 5th angel sounding his trumpet. Okay? The first one is the star. So this is in verses 1 and 2. Okay? Now, the 5th angel sounded. I saw a star from heaven which had fallen to the earth, and the key of the bottomless pit was given to him, and he opened the bottomless pit. In the New American Standard, there's a him and a he in there. Those are pronouns. What does a pronoun do?
Takes the place of a noun.
A pronoun is a word that takes the place of a noun, because using all those nouns over and over and over again can really wear you down. Okay, so him and he. What does the him and he refer to?
The star.
The star. How does this fit in our minds? Is a star a him or a he in our minds normally?
No. It's been anthropomorphized.
What is a star in our minds? Tell me what a star is, scientifically speaking.
Gases.
What have you learned? Gases. Okay. Gases in what kind of a state? What's happening to those?
Burning, exploding,
Is it a plasma?
nebulous.
These are good words. I don't understand all of these words, but these are the words that I'm getting told.
A star is an it.
It's very bright. Okay, what?
It's an it.
A star is an it, not a he. A star is this inanimate object that just, burning, exploding, something. It's a big ball of gases that's somehow working in a way. It's a gas, but it's like a plasma too. And I don't get it. I'm not that scientifically smart. But here in this passage, the it is a he. Okay, if a star is just a big bunch of gases, how would you hand that big bunch of gases, burning or otherwise, how would you hand that a key? What is necessary to be able to receive a key and use a key?
A hand.
A hand. Well, a key for a car, a key for a house, a key for anything. You have to have hands. Just any wild ideas? Anybody want to throw out here? Because this is not normal scientific kind of stuff going on.
The notes in my Bible says an intelligent creature.
Okay, an intelligent creature. When you see a star, do you immediately think that must be a big ball of gases up there in the sky? What do you think, dear?
Well, I think our personality kind of precursors us, along with the books that we've read,
Right.
for how we see these things. Because ever since I have been introduced to C.S. Lewis's books, I look at the stars and I think that one has a name. That is a he or a her. That is not an it. But it's because somebody went before me and taught me that in his writing.
So C.S. Lewis, especially in his book, The Last Battle, he looks at stars as angels. Okay? Now, here I'm going to give you way too much in way too little time and just challenge the way we think. Okay? What we tend to do is we tend to look at situations like this, and we say, how does that scientifically work? Right? So a star is a big ball of gases. So what is God doing here? When this star falls to earth, by the way, if a star is a star as we generally know it from a scientific perspective, if a star and the earth collided, what would happen?
Earth would burn up.
The earth would be burned up. The earth would be destroyed. A star is huge, and it's so hot that it would absolutely consume the earth. Okay, from a scientific perspective. Okay, so the notion of a star falling to earth doesn't fit with our scientific understanding to begin with. But if we can look at something that's a bright light in the sky, and we can come up with multiple explanations of what it might be that aren't in that realm of the general scientific explanation of the star, okay, like it could be a helicopter, or it could be an airplane, or it could be a satellite. You said satellite. I don't remember who said an airplane. It could be a hot air balloon. I mean, who knows? Who knows what it might be? Here's my thought, that this is not me speaking authoritatively. I am not on the level of Scripture. This is just David's wild musings, okay? If at the time of Jesus' birth, if when the wise men were given the insight that a child has been born and he is to be the king of the Jews, if that insight can be given to the wise men, and then they can be led by a moving star, okay? Where else do we see a bright light at the birth of Jesus?
Oh, with the angels and the shepherds.
With the angels and the shepherds. Okay, so the shepherds are out in the fields, keeping watch over their flock by night. And suddenly, there's an angel that appears to them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were
so afraid.
So afraid. Sore afraid, the King James says, okay? So there is definitely a bright light associated with those angels. What if, this is not, again, I'm not speaking authoritatively. This is just my wild musings, okay? I wonder if that star that those wise men followed to go to Bethlehem, and it came and it settled over the house where he was staying, all right? I think that was probably an angel leading the way to the wise men, okay? I think when I put all of that together, these angels making their announcements to the shepherds, and by the way, I think those were two different events. I think they happened at two different times, but that's neither here nor there. If angels are leading that way, though, and looking like stars, when I see this depiction of a star falling from the heavens, coming down to earth, and being given a key, I immediately apply it in that same kind of a way, and I wonder, could this be an angel? Now, I am not authoritative on that. This is just David's best wild guess. Okay, now we're going to do something else that I'm totally uncomfortable with, because I'm uncomfortable talking about this stuff, because I don't want you to take anything that I've said as though it's the way it's going to be, because I don't know the way it's going to be. Again, I'm just a supporter. I'm not the one who gets to set the plan here. But we have the locusts getting described. I'm going to put aside the seal idea. We're going to talk about the seal next week, because I think this is a really important idea. It's actually the most important idea. But today is your latest episodes of David's Wild Ideas. And we can all disagree, and we can all still spend all of eternity worshiping God together there. But so the star that has fallen is given a key to the bottomless pit. And he opened the bottomless pit, and out of the smoke coming from the pit came forth locusts. This is verse 3. Upon the earth. Power was given to them as the scorpions of the earth had power. What is the power of scorpions?
To sting people.
So my sister lives in Arizona now. She's part of a ministry down there to Native American tribes. And she's a school nurse at a school down there. When she gets up in the mornings, before she steps foot even in her apartment, before she steps foot, she looks on the ground first. Because there could be scorpions, there could be tarantulas, there could be, they killed a rattlesnake outside her front door here a little while back. But there's going to be scorpions and stuff all around. So what are we worried about the scorpions doing? Stinging and hurting, So these locusts have power like scorpions. They can hurt you, okay? They were told they should not, verse 4, should not hurt the grass, nor any green thing, nor any tree, but only the men who do not have the seal of God on their foreheads. Seal of God we'll talk about next week. They were not permitted to kill anyone, to torment for 5 months, and their torment was like the torment of a scorpion when it stings a man. It hurts really bad, but it's not going to kill you. The appearance of the locust, this is where I want to pick it up, verse 7. And again, we're almost out of time, but I do want to do this real quick. The appearance of the locust was like horses prepared for battle, and on their heads, as it were, crowns like gold, and their faces were like the faces of men, and they had hair like the hair of women, and their teeth were like the teeth of lions, and they had breastplates like breastplates of iron, and the sound of their wings was like the sound of chariots, of many horses rushing to battle, and they have tails like scorpions and stings, and in their tail is their power to hurt men for 5 months. They have kings over them. They have as king over them the angel of the abyss. His name in Hebrew is Abaddon, and in Greek he has the name Apollyon. Okay, now again, this is all part of Dave's wild musings, all right? So we have this description of these locusts. What are some of the things the description says about the locusts?
Like a horse.
They were kind of like a horse, okay? And what was it that was horse-like, Roy? What were they saying about it being horse-like?
The shape of the locust is like horses.
So that was kind of their shape. And when they went out like horses lining up for battle. Okay? What? They devoured and destroyed things. So it's like they ate stuff up. Okay? What else about the locusts?
Head of man, hair of woman, teeth of lion.
Man, head, woman, hair, teeth, like a lion. Does this sound anything like a locust to you? And by the way, when we're talking about locusts from a biblical perspective, that's what we call grasshoppers. Okay? We're on a hunt to kill grasshoppers at our house right now. We're having a wedding in our front yard in 27 days, and we would love it if every grasshopper around us was dead. So when they're moving or stuff, we go out and mow, and we just see if we could crunch as many grasshoppers as possible. Does this sound like grasshoppers to you?
No, and when they moved, it was like chariots, sound of many chariots.
So when they moved, it was like a big mechanical noise. Okay. I'm going to give you the chance to have all of your musings later, but I'm going to tell you my wild idea. This is just Dave's wild ideas today. This is not biblical. This is not me speaking authoritatively, okay? What if when John says their shape is kind of like a horse, what if he's thinking of is the horse's head? Okay? So a horse's head, kind of elongated, skinnier at one end as opposed to the other. Okay, what if when he says they have like a man's head, what if he's thinking of a guy's eyeballs? Okay, just let me give you a description here for a minute. So like somebody looking like this. Okay, so elongated shape like a horse's head. On the front of it, eyeballs that kind of look like this. A woman's hair. What is a woman's hair? Think of a lady with long hair on a windy day. What does her hair do?
It goes everywhere.
Flying out all around. And you can't see like individual strands. They're just flying all around. Okay? Teeth like a lion. bristling. It stings like a scorpion. Okay, here's my picture. Think of like an attack helicopter. Okay, like an Apache, a Comanche, even a Black Hawk helicopter can be outfitted with all kinds of guns. If you look at it from a certain perspective, its shape is kind of like a horse's head. The propeller whirring above it is kind of like a woman's hair on windy days. I'm not saying this is what John was describing. I'm saying, though, if you don't know what a helicopter is, could you describe it like this? Those windscreens on the front look like eyeballs. And actually, there's lots of kids' movies where a helicopter gets turned into a face, you know, and the eyes are right there, the teeth, the guns sticking out, the fact that it stings, you know, maybe shooting missiles or something like that. This is a description that if I didn't know anything about this stuff, if I'm writing from 2,000 years ago and I see this vision and, you know, a whole wave of helicopters coming up and moving across a field in attack position, that looks like a bunch of horses coming at me. And the sound that it makes, you know, like the sound of 1,000 lawnmowers. But wait, they don't know what a lawnmower sounds like. What sounds like that with all the rattles and, you know, imagine trying to describe what a combine sounds like to somebody that doesn't know anything about a combine. What does a combine sound like from 2,000 years ago perspective? Well, the most mechanical sounding thing that they have is chariots and all the metal rattling on the chariots. And so it sounds like a whole bunch of chariots moving together at the same time with all the mechanical rattling. I don't know that this is what John is describing. But I guess part of what I want to say to us, fellow Christians, as we are looking at these prophetic descriptions, we naturally go to this place of what I would consider to be science fiction. Okay? We think about some space alien kind of movie and what that all might entail. But John is, in my opinion, giving us a physical description of some things that are going to be happening at some point here in this world. And I think what he's describing, in this world at least, is going to be more like normal things that we encounter, but he's just trying to describe them from this 2,000-year-old perspective that doesn't have any clue about modern technology or anything like that. So, my cautionary tale is, before we go to a point of something just absolutely wild, let's go to a point or a description of something that's tangible. Let's look at this from a realistic standpoint instead of a science fiction standpoint. Okay? And could we end up with stuff that's just so out there and so crazy like I've never dreamed of before? Absolutely. And is it going to be beyond my comprehension? Absolutely. I have no doubt of that. But try to take things as literally as we can instead of turning it into something fantastical. Yes, honey, we've only got a couple minutes. Go ahead.
I think it's important to note that doesn't take away from the amazingness
Right.
of God, you know, amazingness.
Well, that he would reveal this to John 2,000 years ago, even if it's stuff that's not that unusual from our perspective, it's still awe-inspiring just in that revelation that God has given to John.
And if you choose to use things that are common to us now, that does not take away from that powerful
Right.
awesomeness.
Right. Right. The heavenly, good morning. The heavenly workings and the worldly workings have to come together in some way. And that's part of what I think is important about the book of Revelation. Okay, we are so out of time. I'm so sorry. David's Wild Musings for the morning. Thank you. Don't take any of this too seriously, okay? Let's pray, and we're going to get ready for our worship service. Our Father in heaven, as we look into your word and try to understand what you have shown to us and what you're trying to prepare us for, help us, Father, that we might see you and grow and just be a little more ready and at the same time in awe of you. I pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Next